Good day. Welcome to Therapeutic Yoga for the hip joints. Today, we're going to be focusing on a lot of beautiful activities, yoga poses, and exercises that really work at opening up the joints. Not so much about strengthening the joints today. So, if you're looking for a yoga class to strengthen your joints, this is not the one, but I promise you there are good ones out there that we've done in the past. So we're going to begin today's class in sitting on your yoga bolster, but you'll also need a yoga block at one point when we're laying on our back. So just kind of have it somewhere in arm's reach near your mat, and then find yourself sitting on your yoga bolster. Now, when you sit, you have an immediate habit to put one leg in front and the other leg behind if you're in a tailor sitting or easy pose or crisscross applesauce, as they say to kindergartners. But what I want you to understand is that habit actually speaks to your hip tension. And for most of us, the hip that we cross and put the leg on the outside, that actually tends to be our tighter hip. And so to begin today's class, what I'd like you to challenge yourself to do is flip your tailor sitting, flip your crisscross applesauce, and see what it feels like to kind of refresh that brain and give it a new idea of how to sit in tailor sitting. Now, let's get some nice, good, efficient sitting happening here on our yoga bolsters. First things first, if you are someone that has tremendous tightness in your hip and your low back, and as you're sitting, your knees are up to here, one thing that I do encourage you to do is take your bolster and make it higher so you can put two blocks underneath your bolster, or maybe sitting on a bolster is not for you, and this would be a good point in class to maybe grab a chair to do a little bit of what we're going to be doing in sitting. All right, now to find a nice, good, efficient, neutral sitting in tailor sitting, first thing you need to do is make sure that you're not rolled all the way back on your pelvis. You also want to make sure that you haven't arched your back so much that every bit of tension is just going to your low back. So very simply, if you just kind of let your pelvis roll back and kind of straighten through your hips, and then let your pelvis roll forward and kind of flex through your hips, you'll find that point, usually halfway in between for most of us, where our sit bones are. So begin with trying to feel where those are on your yoga bolster or whatever you're sitting on, and then sit up nice and tall. And once you've done that, use just your hip joints and hinge yourself just slightly forward to put weight into your legs. Once you've got some nice weight into your legs, then keep your spine nice and tall. Let's just go through doing what's called pivot prone with our arms to get you a good shoulder blade position here. So let's take our hands to the center of our heart, and you know what? Just take a second to put a nice big smile on your face and take a nice deep inhale in and an exhale out. You got it. Now, inhale, lift your arms all the way up, and then as you exhale, kind of turn your hands to the ceiling. And then as you come down on that exhale, just let your elbows come down and out to the side. That kind of repositions your shoulder blades. Keep your elbows tucked into the side of your rib cage, but only go as far as is comfortable. And then squeeze between your shoulder blades. And then gently lay your arms down onto the tops of your thighs. You can have your palms up, and if you have your palms up, maybe you can do a little Anjali Mudra, which is a little tiny hand positioning in yoga. And then lengthen through your neck and settle your chin. And then rest your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And then if it's comfortable for you, just kind of gently close your eyes for a moment. So we're going to start this hip joint class just having some body awareness. So not particularly focusing on our breath, but please make sure you're breathing and not holding your breath. But as you're sitting here, pay attention for a quick moment to your left leg and your left foot touching the floor, whether you're sitting on a bolster or in a chair. And then pay attention to your right leg and your right foot. And as you're sitting here for a second, Pay attention to how much weight is going through the left leg and how much weight is going through the right leg. Feel how if you just do a little bit of engagement through one hip versus the other hip, you actually change where the forces of weight go down through your leg. See if you can balance that. And then take your focus up to your pelvis. You've got two buttock muscles touching your bolster or touching your chair right now. As you're sitting there, just feel, does it appear in your mind and in your tactile sense of your pelvis? Is there equal weight on both sides of your pelvis? And now don't shift your pelvis forward or backward, but literally all I want you to do is a miniature rock of your trunk, right or left, and see how that changes the weight to your pelvic sit bones and your buttock. And what feels balanced to you? Do you feel balanced in the center, or do you have to slightly shift to the left, or do you have to slightly shift to the right to get that little bit of balance? And then once you've found that position of balance between the right and left foot and the right and left sit bone or buttock areas, then what I want you to do is just simply bring your attention to your waist. Feel where your pants are touching your stomach area and your back area. And maintaining your trunk upright, how could you just relax your abdomen, relax your belly, relax those muscles just a little bit more in the seated position? As soon as you let go of holding those muscles, you probably immediately feel the weight go down into the pelvis and the legs. And keep your tongue resting on the roof of your mouth. Now with your belly relaxed, just take a nice, slow, deep inhale into your belly. And then slowly exhale that air out. Keep the belly relaxed, just let it passively come out. Let's do 2 more of those breaths. Just gently inhaling the air into the belly, but not tightening anything up. And then just slowly letting that air come out. One more time, nice deep inhale into the belly. And then just slowly letting that air come out. And then opening your eyes and gently bringing your hands to the center of your heart. Let's get moving. So let's begin with just placing your right hand on your bolster. If you're sitting on a chair, you can just place it on the side of the chair. Holding it there for a moment, left arm. Let's take a nice deep inhale and lift your arm up. And then as you exhale, just bend your right elbow and side bend your body. Now with this left sit bone, really sit down into it. So don't feel like you have to lift higher through your arm. Just see if you can sit lower through your hip. You got it. Deep inhale into your belly. And then as you exhale, maybe there's a little bit more reach. Maybe there's a little more sit into the hip. One more deep inhale into your belly. And then exhale out. Inhale the arm back up and then exhale, drop the arm down and rest the left arm now onto the bolster or chair. Bring the right arm up into the air. Take a deep inhale, lift the rib cage up here. And then as you exhale, side bend as you bend the left elbow. Now sit down into that hip to see if you can kind of open your back from the bottom end, not just the top end. Deep inhale into your belly. And then as you exhale, maybe there's a bit more side bend, and then maybe there's a little bit more of a deeper sit. And a nice deep inhale into your belly, and then exhale out. Very nice. Inhale, coming back up, and then exhaling that arm down. Now, we're going to be immediately transitioning to hands and knees, but we're going to be using our bolster in kneeling today. So what I'd like you to do is just kind of sweep your feet to the left or right of your bolster. Take your bolster and gently place it beside you, as we're going to be using it very shortly coming up onto our knees. But let's go through a couple cat-cows to kind of open up through our spine. So check in that your hands are between your knees, and that's about your hip distance, and that you look back and you cannot see your knees on the inside or the outside of your feet on the inside or the outside of your knees. Line your hips directly up with your knees, and then walk those hands so that those wrists line up with the elbows and the shoulders. Index fingers forward, thumbs in, and spread out those outer three fingers, but try to avoid putting any weight through those outer three fingers, not really the weight bearing component of our wrist there. In this position, see if you can get a nice good tabletop. Spread through your shoulder blades, lengthen the back of your neck, settle your chin, and gaze down into your thumb. Now, let's see if we can hold this position and just do 2 nice diaphragmatic breaths, kind of giving our guts a little bit of a massage here. So keeping your spine perfectly still, take an inhale and let your belly sink down. And then as you exhale, use all of those abdominals to pull that belly up and in without the spine moving as you start to massage that abdominal area. Inhale, let the belly sink down. Keep the spine perfectly stable and still. Shoulder blades are spread apart. Lengthen the neck, settle the chin. And then as you exhale, pull that belly up and in. Very nice. Now, let's go through 3 cat-cows. So as you inhale, let the belly sink, let the spine sink, let the tailbone lift, shoulder blades back and down, lengthen through the neck and look upward. And then as you exhale, pull the belly up and in, arch the back, tailbone tucks under, spread the shoulder blades, lengthen the back of your neck and bring that chin into your chest. Gaze right to that belly button. Inhale, sink everything down. Allow yourself to imagine, how could I lengthen the front of my body any more right now? And then as you exhale, focus on that front of that body. How can you shorten that front of your body? Gaze into that belly button. Last time. Inhaling, lengthening through the front of the body, making sure those shoulder blades come back and down before you lengthen your neck. And then as you exhale, fully curling up and shortening the front of that body, keeping it nice and short, and then gently settling yourself into your child's pose. So drop your sit bones down into your hips. Keep that tailbone tucked under. Bring that belly and those rib cage down into your thighs. Your chest comes towards your knees. Allow the crown of your head to drop towards the floor to stretch through the back of your neck. In this position, allow yourself to gaze straight behind you or into your belly button area. So allow there to be so much nice length through the back of your neck that you're looking literally behind you. Hold yourself in this position and take a nice deep inhale into your belly. And then as you exhale, slowly let go. One more nice deep inhale into the belly. And then as you exhale, slowly let go. Beautiful. Slowly coming up onto hands and knees. Now, we're going to be doing a couple of things in kneeling. If you have sensitive knees, you can use some sort of viscoelastic gel or protection underneath your knees. Oftentimes, even doubling or tripling your yoga mat will also be helpful. But if you've got sensitive knees, allow yourself to kind of get something to extra pad those knees at this point. But then allow yourself to come up into a kneeling position. Now, in kneeling position, what I'd like you to do first is to take your bolster and place it on the right side of you next to where your right arm would be slightly straight. In this position now, take your left foot and place your left foot up to kind of line up with the bolster. So you want it so that your left knee and your left ankle kind of line up and your hips are still hip distance apart. Now, can you take a gaze back at your right leg and make sure that as you came up into that half kneeling position, your leg didn't accidentally fall inward or your leg didn't accidentally fall outward. Now, in this position, hold yourself here. Keep nice, good balance. Take your left hand, place it on your left thigh. Make sure that your entire rib cage is slightly forward. All right, now take a nice deep inhale, and on the exhale, tighten your abdominals and tuck your tailbone completely under. So as you tuck your tailbone completely under, try to use abdominals to do that. Obviously, hamstrings are helping that action. See if you can get the stretch into the front of that hip. Now that you have the stretch into that front of that hip, what I would like you to do is to take your left hand, hold the bolster with the left hand. So there's a little bit of a trunk rotation, but keep your trunk forward. Take your right hand and come back to your pelvis. So just find your pelvis see how I can just push my pelvis forward here? Take a nice deep inhale, and on the exhale, see if you can tuck that tailbone under a bit more, and then just see if you can give that pelvis just a little bit of a push forward. Maintaining this position, take a nice deep inhale into your belly, and then exhaling out. Let's do one more breath. Nice deep inhale into the belly, and then exhaling out. Beautiful. Releasing the right hand, taking the left knee down, allowing yourself to switch the bolster over to the opposite side. You're now holding on for balance with the left hand, and you're going to take the right leg up. Now, as you take the right leg up, check in with the left leg first. Make sure that the left foot is stacked straight behind the knee. It's not fallen out or it's not fallen in. And then check in that the right knee and ankle kind of line up, but your hips are still that 2 fist width or hip distance apart. Now, in this position, allow yourself to check in that your rib cage is slightly forward. So a lot of us, as soon as we engage our abdominals, what we immediately do is push our rib cage back. So if we start with it forward, hopefully it won't go backwards as we start to try to open up through the front of our left hip. Now, in this position, take a nice deep inhale, and on an exhale, tuck that tailbone under as you tighten your abdominals, and yes, engage some through those left hamstrings. Hopefully you start to feel that stretch in the front of that left hip. Very good. Now with your right hand, hold on for balance to that left bolster, take that left hand and come back to the back of that pelvis. See that you can kind of push that pelvis forward by doing that. Maintain this position, take a nice deep inhale, and then as you exhale, tuck that tailbone and give it a little bit of a push to add to that stretch to the front of the hip joint. Take a deep inhale into your belly here, and then exhaling out. One more nice deep inhale into the belly, and exhaling out. Beautiful. Releasing, dropping your right knee down. Once you have your right knee down, take your bolster and place it in front of you on the mat. Once you've done that, allow yourself to bring your right hip bone onto the bolster. Once your right hip bone is onto the bolster, look at your right shin bone. Can you get your right shin bone to line up with the front of your mat? Left leg, it's all a matter of how tight your hips are. So you can either have your left shin bone lining up with the side of your mat. This is kind of a modified Z pose here. Or if you really want to tackle some length into your left hip flexors and left hip joint, while we start to tackle the hip rotators on our right side, see if you can kind of walk that left leg back some. Go where is comfortable for you. Now, with the right knee, here's what I want you to do. Commonly in yoga, if we were doing a traditional pigeon pose here, you're going to line that knee either up with the right shoulder or to the outside. I want you to take your right knee and bring it closer to the center of your chest. So can you take your right foot off of your mat? Very nice. Now, if you look at your pelvis right now, it's kind of probably pointed up and over towards that right foot. So allow yourself to lift up and see if you can pull that left hip pointer forward. If the left knee bends, let it be. Now, in this position, you're probably already feeling tension into the right buttock and maybe even a little bit into the hamstring if there's restrictions there. Here's what I would like you to do. Gently place your hands downward towards the mat. Now, this might be as far as you go. Try to keep that pelvis flat so that left hip pointer has to point forward. In this position, you have several options. You stay here. Option 1, Take your left toes and turn them under and engage a little bit through the left hip flexors. Option 2, or to do it together, take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, attempt to forward bend up and over that right knee. Now make sure that the right knee stays in the center of your chest so you're getting these evil deep hip rotators that we oftentimes miss in traditional pigeon pose. All right, wherever you have chosen you to be, whether it's a left straight leg or just a fold or right in that first position. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin, place your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and take a nice deep inhale into your belly. And then as you exhale, just try to relax through the right buttock. Deep inhale into the belly. And then as you exhale, just try to relax through that right buttock. Slowly walking your hands back up, relaxing the left leg, letting the leg first come back into Z pose for a minute, getting yourself nice and balanced. And then here's a quick way to change from one side to the other. Flip the left leg forward and then bring the right leg back. All right. So now we're doing the left buttock or hip rotators and a little bit of an opening of the right hip joint and right hip flexors. So in this position, make sure that your sit bone of your left pelvis is on the bolster. Look at your left leg and make sure the shin bone is at least lining up to the front of your mat. And then if you want to just do a modified Z pose, then this leg would just line up with the side of the mat. Don't allow yourself to be too much into your hamstring, so let your leg straighten out a little bit. Now, if you want to focus a little bit more on this hip flexor, this is where you can take that leg and straighten it out behind you. And only go to where you're comfortable. Now, let's talk about the left knee like we did on the opposite side. Traditional pigeon pose, the knee is going to be at shoulder level or slightly outward. I really want you to focus on those deep hip rotators. So the piriformis muscles and the muscles that really impact the position of your hip joint. So for you, see if you can take your foot and walk your foot, left foot, off the right side of your mat so that your knee is sitting somewhere closer to the center of your chest rather than outward towards the left side. All right, right hip pointers so that we don't have a rotated pelvis. So right now your pelvis is probably pointed towards that left foot. Use your abdominal muscles and back muscles and your hip rotators to see if you can line that pelvis up nice and good. Now, stay here if you're already feeling that beautiful lengthening happening through the left buttock muscles, specifically the hip rotators. If you want to add, option 1, turn the toes under and start to straighten through the right leg. Now you're getting lengthening through the right hip flexors and the joint. And option 2, either you can do them separate or together. Gently bring your hands downward in front of this leg bone so that you're in more of hip flexion on that left side. All right, take a nice deep inhale. And then as you exhale, see if you can fold a little bit into that stretch. As you gently fold into that stretch, allow yourself to focus on that pelvis staying level. Keep that right hip pointer forward. That's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's take a deep inhale into our belly and then exhaling out. Deep inhale. That inhale is where you get those the length into those rotators. And then exhaling out. Then start to walk your hands back on up and release your leg into that Z pose. All right, here's what I want you to do now. Simply fall off the back of your bolster. And once you've fallen off the back of your bolster, move it away for a minute. We're going to use it one more time in kneeling, but let's just take a quick second to kind of open up through our inner thigh muscles here. So allow the right leg to be straight. Allow the left foot to kind of be pointed inward towards the right thigh. Now, in this position, there's a lot we can do, but the only thing we're going to focus on is where those inner thigh muscles attach right here into the inner groin. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your pelvis and point towards your left knee. So the easy way to do that is to lengthen your right leg out. So as you lengthen your right leg out, that pelvis begins to rotate towards the left side. If you're like me, you're already feeling that inner thigh muscle. Now, in this position, take your left hand slightly behind you, your right hand slightly to the side of you. See if you can line yourself up with this right leg. Now, we're not going to do a major side bend. That's for another class. What we're going to focus on is that groin muscle, that inner thigh muscle that oftentimes doesn't allow the hip joint to move efficiently. So here's what I want you to focus on. Stay with that rib cage and that pelvis pointed towards the left knee. Can you just take an inhale and try to arch your back just a tiny amount? Yes, you'll feel the stretch kind of move its way upward. Now stay there. Want to get a little bit of tension into the right leg? You can point your toes up if you like, completely up to you. Allow yourself to keep that little bit of an arch through the pelvis and the low back, and take a deep inhale into your belly. And then exhale out. Nice deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. And then slowly releasing the arch of the back. Feeling the stretch actually minimize as you do that. Letting your right leg bend in, and then letting your left leg come out. Finding the right foot into the left thigh. Our pelvis initially will be somewhere in the center position. Do the exact same thing on the side. So with your left leg, really lengthen that leg out so all of a sudden the pelvis is pointed towards the right side. Once you're there, right hand, take it behind you so that you're lining shoulder, trunk, and pelvis up with the right. Left hand, simply just place it on the left leg somewhere, just not directly on top of your kneecap. Now, we're not doing any side bend. This is strictly about those inner thigh muscles, your adductor muscles. So in this position, simply take an inhale and arch your back a little bit. It may take just a tiny bit to do it. Once you begin to feel the stretch moving upward, closer to the groin area, maintain that position. Now let's go through 2 nice deep diaphragmatic breaths here. So nice deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out, and then slowly releasing that pelvic arch or the lumbar extension, and gently bringing the left knee back in, and then finding yourself hands and knees, but facing hands and knees opposite or perpendicular on your mat, and then grab your bolster again. So now what we're going to do with hands and knees is we're going to come back up into kneeling in this position, and we're going to really specifically work on creating a motion of the hip joint itself. So we've opened up enough of the muscles that we should be able to get what we actually call in physical therapy an inferior glide of your hip joint. So here's what I want you to imagine. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have your legs hip distance right now, and you line your kneecaps up with the center of your leg bones, that is about where your hip joint is. And your hip joint is in the front of your pelvis. It's not in the side of your pelvis. So if we think about the hip joint as a ball and socket, what we're now going to do is take the leg bone. My arm right now is this leg bone. We're going to take that leg bone and we're going to bring that leg bone out to the side. And then as we pressure down onto that leg bone, we actually gap, or what we call inferior glide, that hip. Fabulous if you're having hip pain or osteoarthritis or your post-hip replacement and you still have a lot of tension in that hip joint. So let's go ahead and do this all together. So take your right leg and gently bring your right leg out to the side. Now there's a couple of alignment cues I want you to do here. So please check in that your left leg is still perfectly perpendicular to your mat and floor, okay? Check in that you've got some nice good balance. This isn't about a balance class today. It is about these hip joints. Now, can you look that your right heel lines up with your left knee? So don't have your leg behind you. There'll be too much tension on the front of your hip. You're not going to get a good glide. So have it so that it perfectly lines up, heel to knee. Finally, take a look at your pelvis. So a lot of us with really tight hip joints, right now as you're in this position, if you look at your waistband, it's kind of angling upward to the right. What I want you to do is figure out, how do I use my spine, my back, my pelvis, and my hip muscles to level my band? You may already start to feel that stretch again in your inner thigh. If you do, the stretch we just did in sitting, do it often. Now, take your right hand, please, and bring it right up to the crease of your pants, right where you see that crease in your pants that you're wearing, and just gently place your hand on that crease. So as I start to just push down with my hand, I'm actually allowing that glide or that space to occur in my hip joint. So keep yourself in this position, take a nice deep inhale, and then as you exhale, can you maybe just lean a little bit into it? All right, so today we're gonna kind of shake it and rock and roll it. So literally just kind of give yourself a little bit of a vibration or a oscillation or a percussion, I guess you could say, where you're just kind of pushing, 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 pushing. Make sure you're not holding your breath, but we're not gonna really do this specifically with inhales and exhales. All right, finally, if you have it in your practice and you're good with this, just let your bolster let go for a second. Left arm, take a deep inhale, lift that arm up. And then as you exhale, really glide up and over that right hip. Hold right here, nice deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out, one more breath. Deep inhale into that belly. And let go. Beautiful. Bringing your arm back down, allowing yourself to take that bolster, hold it, and then just gently bring the right leg in, repeating it all over on the opposite side. So bolster over to the right side now. Left hip is out to the left side. First things first, check in that the right leg is lining up with the floor. Also could be lining up with your bolster, I guess. Can you see that your left knee is your left heel, is in line with your right knee? So don't allow yourself to be in hip extension, or most likely for most of us, back extension. It's not going to help us get into this hip. So have that nice good alignment that you can find. And then finally, look at that waistband. Look at where your pelvis actually is. A lot of us with tight left hips this time, your band is going to be pointed all the way up to that ceiling to the left. So I really want you to use your hip muscles and your trunk muscles and see, can I get that waistband into a level position? You may not today, but keep working on this and you might. Now, once you've found that level waistband, that perpendicular right leg, the alignment through your left leg, take that hand again, and you can see the crease of my pants. Just gently place your hand into that crease. Take a nice deep inhale here, and then on your exhale, just a slight tip over so you've got a bit of weight on that arm, and then start that moving back and forth, that oscillation. So as we're doing this, ladies and gentlemen, you are self-mobilizing your own hip joint at home. You are providing good space for those hip joints that oftentimes get very imbalanced and off axis. This is one of the greatest things you can do to kind of gain range of motion in those hips. Take a nice deep inhale now, if you're ready, right arm up. And then as you exhale, can you side bend that entire trunk weight over that hip and then glide it downward towards that floor? You've got it. Hold here for me. Take that deep inhale into your belly. And exhale out. One more time. Nice deep inhale into the belly. And exhale out. Beautiful. Bring that right arm down. Allow yourself to come back up and rest that left knee in. Now, if you've got a hip replacement, arthritic hip, or any of the above, it's a little tender to get in and out of that position. Just do what your body is capable of doing, but I promise you, you'll see gains in hip range of motion. You'll feel happier walking, and your back will also help that, like that a lot. Okay, before we make it down to the floor, let's take our bolsters, just kind of move them off to the side. We're done with them. We are going to attempt traditional and real frog pose today to get, really, if you think about this, 2 inferior glides of your hips. Now, what you want to do this, you can stay sideways on your mat, or you can turn back to this position. I'm going to turn back to this position so you can really see the alignment. So here's the deal. I want to make sure that my hips stay stacked over my knees. If I let my hips come back, I'm going to be in too much tension of my gluteals and hamstrings. It's not going to let my hip joints let go. If I come too far forward, what's going to happen is I'm going to have that ball and socket in a position that it's not going to be able to glide nicely. So see if you can get in that gentle hip opening position. Hands, have them directly underneath your shoulders. See if you can walk your feet and your knees outward. So literally, you look like a frog. Now, as you look like a frog, make sure that your knees don't fall inward. That's a lot of external rotation for your hips. Keep your shin bones running parallel to one another. How far can you kind of let those legs slide out to the side? Now, in this position, if you'd like, drop down onto your elbows. Completely up to you. Maintain. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly. Wherever you are, that's where you should be today. Exhaling out. 2 more breaths. Deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. 1 more time. Deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. Coming back up onto the hands. Walking the feet in and then slowly letting the knees come in. Now, stay in hands and knees for 1 quick moment. Take a deep inhale here, and then on the exhale, arch the back, tuck the tailbone, sit back, find 1 final child's pose before we make our way down onto our back. Rest the rib cage onto the thighs, chest towards the knees, crown of the head down onto the floor. Oh boy, did you know you could even do that? You didn't break anything, I promise. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. 1 more nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Very nice. Slowly just coming up out of child's pose. Make sure you have your block near you, and then allow yourself to roll over on your side. Once you've made your way onto your side, then gently roll yourself over onto your back. Nice, safe way to transition onto our back so that we don't hurt our low back. Once you're laying onto your low back here, just allow yourself to take a minute to make sure that you feel like your shoulder blades are underneath you. Very nice. Now that you've found that position, take your right knee to your chest and then allow your left leg to slide down the mat. Now, if you can for me, please just take a quick look at the left leg and make sure that it is straight down from the hip and it hasn't fallen out or it hasn't gone too far inward. Then lengthen your neck and settle your chin and take a nice deep inhale. And then on the exhale, simply pull your right knee to your chest. Now, here's what I want you to do today. Can you take a look at your right foot? Does the ankle line up with the knee, line up with the hip? Or is that foot to the inside of the knee? If it is, what I would like you to do today is just gently slide the right leg down a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, and line it up with the hip. If it creates too much pinching in your groin, only do what you're capable of doing. No pain here, just tension maybe. Take a deep inhale in, and then as you exhale with that new alignment, pull that knee into your chest a little bit more. 1 more time, nice deep inhale in, and exhaling, pulling that knee up and into your chest. Beautiful. Slide the left leg up and then relax the right foot to the floor. Taking the left knee to the chest and sliding the right leg down. Can you check in with the right leg that it's lined up nice and in alignment with your hip and your knee? And then take a deep inhale, neck is logged, chin is tucked, and then exhale your knee to your chest. Now, take this time today, since we're focusing on the hip, to look, does my knee and my ankle and my hip all line up, or do I have an alignment issue through my hip joint? If so, for today, what I'd like you to try for your knee to chest is just take that left hand down a little tiny bit, pull that heel out so that you can get that efficient alignment through ankle, hip, and knee. And lengthen your neck and settle your chin, and then take a nice deep inhale. And then as you exhale, pull that knee into your chest. One more breath. Nice deep inhale. And then as you exhale, pull that knee into your chest. Slowly sliding the right leg back up and releasing the left foot to the floor. Now, time to grab your block. We're going to be doing a little bit through the hip capsule here. And I like to do this with a block for those of us that think we have more flexibility through our hips than we actually have. So take your right ankle and gently cross it over your left knee, and then just place the block against the right leg. Now you're touching somewhere on the inner thigh knee area. You can use the longest part of the block if you think you have really good hip flexibility, or you can use the shortest part if you know your hips are really tight. You pick any way you want to use your block. Now with your left hand, roll yourself please over to the right. Place the left hand palm down on the mat and roll back over onto the mat so that you feel that your palm is sitting underneath your pelvis. Now allow yourself to roll slightly to the left to put all of your body pelvic weight onto that left hand. Now leave it there. Take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, start to push the right knee away. Do not unload the left hand. Hold that stretch, feel that stretch through the outside of your right hip. Now, if you've got plenty of stretch and you want no more, stay right here. However, if you would like a little tiny bit more of a stretch, take a slight arch of your low back and you'll be able to feel a little bit more stretch through that right hip. Maintain your stretch. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Deep inhale into your belly, sit on that left hand, and exhale out. Slowly release the left hand, release the block from the right leg, uncross the leg, and let's repeat that all over on the opposite side. So left ankle over right knee, block into the right thigh area or knee area. Then roll yourself to the left, take your right hand, place it underneath your pelvis and roll back so that all of the weight is onto that right hand. Now in this position, intentionally roll a little bit more weight onto that right hand so you can feel that you can't let that right hand go. In this position, lengthen your neck, settle your chin, take a deep inhale in, and then as you exhale, start to push that left knee away. Feel that stretch in the outside of the left hip. If you're good here, stay here. Keep the weight on the right hand. If you want a little bit more, allow yourself to kind of miniature arch of your low back. That will focus a little bit more hip flexion into there and get a little bit more of a stretch. Completely up to you, but keep the weight onto your right hand. Now take a deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Nice deep inhale into the belly. And exhaling out. Slowly take the right hand from underneath you. Block, we are done with it. Kind of take it away from you and then uncross that leg. Now, in this position, let's just kind of waken up those hip rotators a little tiny bit. We've done lots of good opening for those hip joints. And we're going to do a fabulous gentle hip opening next. But let's do some windshield wipers first. So take the feet and take the width of your mat and make sure that the outside of your feet line up with your mat. So that's going to kind of make you feel like your knees are turning inward, right? So in that position, see if you can keep your feet there and take a nice deep inhale. And on the exhale, just let your feet fall or your knees fall to the right. Now, as your knees fall to the right, take your focus to your left knee. Take a nice deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, can you imagine trying to pull that knee further towards the mat? Now take your attention to the right knee. Take a nice deep inhale here. And on the exhale, imagine letting that right knee go further to the mat. Hold here. Deep inhale into your belly. Exhaling out. One more time. Nice deep inhale into the belly and exhaling. Inhaling the knees all the way back up to the center. Check in that you haven't lost your alignment through your feet. And then simply exhale the legs over to the left. Now start with focusing onto the right knee first. Take a deep inhale. And then on the exhale, lengthen that right leg straight down. Then focus on your left knee. Take a deep inhale here. And then as you exhale, let that left knee fall towards the floor. Now focus on your abdomen and your pelvis and your trunk. Take a deep inhale into your belly. And then exhale out. Deep inhale in. And exhaling out. Inhaling, bringing those legs all the way back up to the centered position. And then allowing yourself to walk your feet inward so that they're hip distance. Check in with yourself that you're nice aligned on your mat. Shoulder blades are back and under. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do, it's a Feldenkrais movement exercise. So Feldenkrais does awareness through movement exercises. I'm just kind of tweaking this slightly to be a little bit more physical therapy and yoga related here. So with your left leg, take your left leg down, and could you take a moment to look down and place the left heel in the center of your mat? Once you've done that, allow yourself to take your right ankle, inside of your ankle, and let it touch the inside of that left knee. Now, here's what I would like you to do with your hands. Can you place your hands on the front of your hips, onto the hip pointers, rest your elbows down onto the floor, and pay acute attention that that pelvis doesn't move. So the only thing we're going to think about now is that ball and socket on that right hip. Don't allow your back to arch. Don't allow your back to flatten. But take a nice deep inhale into your belly. And then on your exhale, just gently start to let your leg fall outward to the side. When do you stop? When the pelvis initiates movement. Where can you let that knee fall without the pelvis creating any movement? Now, wherever you've gotten to, allow your right buttock muscles to completely relax. And then take the deepest inhale into your belly that you can. And then exhale out. Inhale into that belly. And exhale out. Now using a very slow inhale, slowly let that knee come all the way back up to that starting position. Then walk your right foot out until your foot completely leaves your mat. Line your knee up with your ankle. Left leg, don't move it. Hands, maintain that stable pelvis position. Take a nice deep inhale here. And then on the exhale, where can that right knee go out to the side without that pelvis moving? Wherever you get to, that is where you should be today. Now take a quick moment to say, right buttock muscles, can you now let go? And take a deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Deep inhale into your belly. And exhaling out. Allow a real slow inhale to gently bring that knee back upward. And then slowly start to walk your leg back inward. Hop the leg up and over today. So if you cannot place your leg up and over the opposite leg, just gently place the leg onto the left thigh. If you cannot place the leg onto the left thigh, then place the leg onto the left shin. Just stay away from that kneecap. So pick the position you want. And once you're here, hands on the pelvis. The pelvis isn't going to move. This is purely about my right hip joint. Take a nice deep inhale. And then on the exhale, slowly let that knee fall. If your foot lifts off the floor, that's fine. But just gently let the knee fall without the pelvis moving. Now, speak to your right hip. Tell the muscles to relax. Take a nice deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Use a slow, intentional inhale to gently bring that leg back to its upright position. And then uncross the leg, place the right foot on the floor, and slide the left leg up. All right, let's repeat that all over on the opposite side. So take your right leg down. Once your right leg is straight, can you take a moment to lift your head and find the foot in the center of the mat? Then take your left ankle and place it to the inside of the right knee. Hands are guiding that pelvis into a stable, neutral position so that there's no creation of rotation of our pelvis. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin. Start with that deep inhale. And then on the exhale, very slowly, let the leg begin to fall, but maintain that stable pelvis. Do not let that pelvis rotate to the left. Wherever the leg goes for today, that's where you should be. Don't push it. Now speak to the left buttock and just try to let it go for a moment. Now let's breathe. Nice, deep diaphragmatic breath. Can you breathe so deeply you can feel it into your hip muscles? And then exhaling out. Nice, deep diaphragmatic breath inward. And then exhaling out. Very slow, intentional inhale. Gently bring that knee back up. Nice and slow until it's in the upright position. Then walk your foot out until your foot is completely off your yoga mat. Right leg does not move. Pelvis and hands, keep it nice and stable. Start your inhale. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin. And then on your exhale, gently let the leg begin to fall out. Make sure that pelvis doesn't move, ladies and gentlemen. Make this about that ball and socket of your hip. Now, wherever you feel tension, wherever you feel your left hip grabbing or talking to you, put intention into letting it relax. Now take a deep inhale into your belly and exhaling out. Deep inhale into the belly and exhale out. Using your inhale, slowly controlling that leg coming back up. The slow control teaches those hip muscles to be correctly firing at the right time. So you're kind of working some motor control there. Finally, walk that foot in. Take the foot up and over the opposite leg. So again, if your foot cannot be placed on the floor on the opposite side, you can place it up on your thigh, or you can place it down on your shin, but do not place it directly on your kneecap. So place it up and over. And then in this position, hands on the pelvis, keep it nice and neutral. Take that nice deep inhale.
And then on the exhale, slowly let that leg fall out. Wherever it gets to, start to speak to the leg muscles, the hip muscles, the buttock muscles. Tell it to let go. Deep diaphragmatic breath. Take a deep inhale in and out. One more time. Nice deep inhale in and out. Use the inhale slowly to let that leg come up with control. And then uncross the leg. Slide that right leg up. One knee to your chest, followed by the other knee to your chest. Take a nice deep inhale here, and then on the exhale, pull your knees into your chest. Open up through your low back and glutes. Boy, you've done a lot through your hips. Nice deep inhale into your belly, and then exhale, pull those knees to your chest. Now, if you want to, and only if you feel like I've done a really good job on my hip joints today, just try to arch your back a little bit right here and really focus on getting that nice good flexion through just the hip. Take a deep inhale here, and then as you exhale, let your back go and pull those knees nice and deep. Very nice. Take your knees wider, take the feet wider with you. When relieving pose, take a deep inhale here. And then on the exhale, can you pull your knees even higher up towards your shoulders? Take a deep inhale into your belly and exhale out. Stay here, or if you would like to try happy baby, just simply straightening the right leg bone on the side so that the shin is vertical. Simply straightening the left so the shin is vertical. Holding either underneath the legs. Keep the legs shoulder width apart. Holding on the shin bones. Don't let the knees fall in or the knees fall out. Or if you feel like you have it in your practice, holding underneath the outside of your leg bones. Now, can you take your elbows and line them up with the outside of your knees so you keep that hip alignment? Take a nice deep inhale. And then on the exhale, pull your knees down and into your armpits. You are a happy baby. So can you smile? All right, let's see if we can get this deep inhale all the way into the hips and pelvic floor. So take a deep inhale into your belly and exhale out. Beautiful. Slowly walking your hands back to your knees, bringing your knees up and in, and then gently one leg at a time, dropping your feet to the floor. Taking your right leg, sliding it straight down in line with your hip, left foot up onto the right thigh, right hand, grab that left knee for me. Left hand gently out to the side of your body. Lengthen your neck, settle your chin, take a nice deep inhale. And then on your exhale, start to pull that left knee up and over. Feel the pelvis lift. Feel the low back lift and feel that rib cage lift, but keep that left shoulder blade down. How far is your spinal twist? Is your hip happier today in your spinal twist? Lengthen your neck, settle your chin, and then just gently take your gaze to your left hand. Let's do 2 beautiful deep inhales and exhales. Deep inhale into the belly as far as she goes, you guys. And then exhale out. Deep inhale in. And exhale out. Slowly bring the head back to the center. Start with the left rib cage first and bring it down to the mat, followed by the low back, followed by the pelvis, and then unrotate the knee first and then place the left foot on the floor. Slide the right leg up, Slide the left leg down, place the right foot onto the left thigh. Make sure the left hip and knee are in alignment. Left hand to the right knee, right hand out to the side of the body. Take a nice deep inhale here, and then on the exhale, lift that pelvis, lift that low back, lift that rib cage. Keep that shoulder blade down on that right side. Lengthen the neck, settle the chin, and gently turn your head towards your right hand. Make these breaths count. Deep inhale. How deep can you take it? And exhale. Nice deep inhale. And exhale. Slowly bringing your head back to the center. Start with the right rib cage and begin to bring the right rib cage down first, followed by the low back, followed by the pelvis. Unrotate the knee and rest the right foot on the floor. Slide the left leg up. Kind of move your pelvis around. Take your knees to your chest if you need to find that good lumbar position for your final resting pose of Savasana. And then place your feet down onto your mat one at a time. Roll your shoulder blades down and under you, arms resting to the side. Here's what I want you to do today. Take your intention to your right leg. Imagine that ball and socket of your hip. Take a deep inhale. And as you exhale and slide that leg down the mat, imagine that right hip being as open as it can be. Gently let the leg fall out to the side. Left leg, focus on that ball and socket of that left hip. Take a nice deep inhale, and then on the exhale, slowly let that left leg fall down all the way to the corner of the mat. Lengthen your neck and settle your chin and rest your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Gently close your eyes. And as you're resting in Savasana today, let's do a little bit of visualization. Let's kind of imagine the hips, but imagine them maybe in a little bit of a different way. So think of a ball and socket. It can be made of plastic. It can be made of metal. You can think of your own hip if you think of a ball and a socket. Now, if you took that ball and socket and you wrapped it over and over and over again to kind of secure them into one another so that if you let go of one, they don't fall apart. That's essentially what the capsule of your hip does and the muscles around your hip. And so oftentimes, when we talk about opening our hips or working our hip joints, it's merely a matter of taking everything that kind of keeps that ball in that socket just a little too tight and slowly letting those tissues relax. Now start to wiggle those fingers and those toes and maybe some circles with those ankles and those wrists. And then when you feel like you're ready, slide the right leg up, followed by the left leg, and then gently let yourself roll to your left or your right side. Rest there for a moment and take a nice deep inhale and exhale here. And then when you're ready on an exhale, allow yourself to push up with that tie up arm and then find yourself in a nice, good seated position. Hands to our heart and smiles on our faces. Check in real quickly. Did you cross your legs like you normally do? Or have you made some big changes in that brain today? Take a nice deep inhale in and exhale out. Namaste. The highest in me salutes the highest in you. Thank you. Now, before we end class today, 2 things I'd like to make note of. 1, you've done a wonderful job on your hips. So please make sure you take a nice walk after this class, 5-10 minutes minimum. 2, there's a lot of emotions associated with our hip joints, particularly the muscles and the capsules that surround our hips. So oftentimes when you spend a good solid hour working on just one joint of your hips, it can make you a little emotional. And so if you find yourself a little teary-eyed today, or maybe missing someone, or just something setting you off more than it normally did, you can attribute it to the fact that you took care of your hips today. Thank you for joining me.